But moving forward, so we talked a little bit about the overall team right there, some of the matchups. Now we're going to get into some more individual talking points in nature. And they've released some roster cuts today. Nobody of big contention. It's sad that you lose Steven Carlson for the year. Nevertheless, he doesn't have an impact on this offense. Maybe he does. Maybe he's a good asset on special teams, but I feel like most people can agree that Steven Carlson was a fan favorite for somebody who was going to be, your tight end number 4. It's sad to lose him, but throwing it back to Michael here. Are there any surprise roster cuts that you see? Is there one name that you thought for sure, or maybe everybody thought that was going to be on the roster who isn't going to make it after what we've seen in training camp and what we've seen in the first week of the preseason?
From a cut perspective, the guys that I'm watching, Greedy Williams, is one. I don't know if he's a bubble guy or what, but the reality is with his injury, he's going to have to prove to this team. I mean, he wasn't drafted by Andrew Berry. He's not a Berry guy. He's not a Stefanski guy. These guys came in brand new and then have had all of this success last season without him. And it's like now you're coming back and it's almost like he's a rookie. He's going to have to prove it. Right. And be able to do that. And so I think they're going to be watching Greedy. I think it's all going to come down to how healthy he is. Because I think they can get him back into football shape fairly quickly. But I think it's also pretty clear that with that injury, it's going to be very difficult to make him the guy that we drafted him to be, which is the guy who's going to be on the other side of Denzel. Right. So, Newsome, I mean, when you draft a cornerback in the first round, that guy is intended to start. So, we drafted a guy ahead of him with the first round pick. I mean, that to me, in his role that he was supposed to fill, right? So that is one that I'm watching, and I was eagerly watching it in the first preseason game to see like what Greedy was going to do. I think he had a tackle or two. Obviously nothing of significance, but obviously he didn't do anything horrible either. I think Mac Wilson's another guy to watch. If you look at how JOK did, again, we move up to draft a guy who has first round talent. The rumor was he had some like strange heart condition that people found out about like the week of the draft or something like that. That's how he slipped. I mean, that dude can flat out play. Yeah. So if I'm Mac Wilson now in year number 3 and coming into he's a 5th round guy. It's not like we drafted him in the 2nd round. We're like, let's just give him another shot to see what happens. After some of the maturity issues I think we had last year where he was injured in preseason, also, was a bit too aggressive with Nick Chubb, which is a big no-no. And then later on in the season, I don't know what happened. I don't know if anybody really truly knows what happened. But when he didn't make the trip to New York, it was odd. We're like, what is going on here? And then he essentially got just demoted at the end of the season and played very little. But he was okay when he did play. But there was that. So we went out there and we got the linebacker from Indianapolis. We drafted a linebacker. We got Smith coming back. Taki is going to be there. I think the odd man out could be Mac Wilson. Now he's got a shoulder injury, a sprained shoulder. So he's another guy to watch. I don't think that they're going to give up on Grant Delpit yet. I think that they're going to, because I mean, that's just a position where we need depth. So if he can go and if I don't know if they're just being really ginger with him or not, but we're going to have to see something from him in the preseason. Other than that, of the guys that like you think, I don't think anybody on offense that we know of is going to be at risk. I really hope that Hubbard makes a team. I know people have said that he's going to be on the bubble. To be honest, I don't think we can afford to lose any offensive lineman who's got experience. Although guys like Blake Hance and stuff like that, fine. but we know that we need the depth, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be really any huge surprises. I think Malcolm Smith is, although he's, ancient at this point, I think he's going to be back. We need the guy like him. So yeah, I think this year is the one thing to look out for is, unlike other years where we draft a boatload of rookies and we're just expecting them all to just automatically make the team just because they're cheap and young and we can see what they got. I don't think that's the case anymore. These are luxuries at this point. We got studs on this roster.
Mhm.
We got an all-star roster like at every position. So these guys are gonna have to make the team and prove that they deserve to be out there, which is, the guys I'm looking at mostly there are, Greedy and Mac Wilson, but who knows? They might both make the team and could be the other way. What about you guys? What are you thinking?
Justin, do you feel very passionate about this?
You
I think
know,
Greedy's a good one.
I think Greedy's a good one. I just don't know that, I could argue more about he's going to take a backseat role than he's going to get cut, just because we saw what, poor cornerback play looks like once you have a bunch of guys injured and you don't have anyone that's, after that Denzel Ward, there was such a huge drop off in play. Even Terrence Mitchell, who is no longer on the team and with the Texans right now, our third and fourth string guys, when they had to play, it was just bad news. And then I could understand, with the injury and everything for him, that he could be taking a back seat, but I don't know that he'd get cut. Someone that I'm keeping an eye out, and it's just been, they had high expectations for him coming in, was Tack McKinley. Obviously he's missing some time right now with personal issues. No one really knows what that means. He's taking some time for himself. So maybe something happened in the family. I don't want to speculate on anything bad because, if the man's going through something, then he's going through something. But, someone that I just think the organization had a huge amount of hopes for, just not really popping in camp and not really, making the best of his opportunity right now. I think that's probably just someone, you signed in the offseason, had a little bit of a bigger name to himself coming into camp, and then kind of just gets let go. I think the linebacker position is probably that position of like, all right, someone's probably going to get cut here between Mac Wilson or Talkie or Malcolm Smith. Like, those are the three guys that I think I've narrowed it down to. One of those three will probably be gone. That's it for my defensive takes. And I think the one surprise player that I could see not making the roster, just because of how stacked the room is at that wide receiver position, is Kadero Hodge. Because as much as like he was a great player when he was on the field, you got Odell coming back, you got Jarvis, you re-signed Higgins, Donovan's been popping off in camp, and then you got the rookie Schwartz, who, again, I think there are high hopes for him. I don't know if they would want to have that wide receiver position just kind of locked in so he can punt return and kick return. And then you have Demetric Felton, who I think a lot of people are going to be shocked that he plays more wide receiver. I was shocked even that he didn't touch the ball once as a running back in this preseason game. So who knows? He might end up being the guy that kind of kicks out Kadero Hodge, a guy that I really liked. I really like his celebration too. So that's my only other big one right now. Jeff, how about you?
I think that for as far as Greedy and Mac Wilson goes as two guys who might not make the roster, I think that would be a byproduct of just the complete 180 that our defense has taken, and the fact that Joe Woods could probably squeeze those guys out just based on formation alone. If we don't need, if he feels like it's not a necessity that we have a lot of cornerbacks or a lot of linebackers, I think it's a real possibility that, maybe even both of those guys don't make the roster, whether it be for injury reasons or they just won't fit into the scheme. I think that Owosu Koromoa I think he's going to play. I think he's going to be a starter, honestly. I think that Jacob Phillips, a lot of people would rather have play over Mac Wilson. And then you're assumed to have Anthony Walker healthy week 1 with the green dot. So he's going to basically round out that room. You could even move Joke around, honestly. I mean, Joe Woods just has so many different options with where he could put people. I feel like there's a couple guys on the defensive side of the ball that might be in jeopardy. I think AJ Green has a really good shout if he continues to play in the preseason to keep a roster spot, somebody who we thought might have been on the bubble for sure, but I thought he looked great against the Jaguars.